All right, everybody, ready to dive in? We're tackling G.K. Chesterton's The Everlasting Man today.
A classic.
It really is. And for good reason, we're going to see why.
Yeah.
Religion, history, what makes us human. Chesterton gets into all of it. And to help us unpack it all, I've got expert speaker here with me. You really know your Chesterton.
I'm a fan. Happy to be here.
And I'm glad to have you because this book, it really makes you think differently right from the start. I mean, Chesterton wants us to look at Christianity like we've never seen it before. Mm-hmm. He even says, imagine approaching it like a Confucian. Like, forget everything you think you know. What do you make of that approach?
It's classic Chesterton, right? He wants to shake things up. Make you see the familiar with fresh eyes, the way a traveler sees a new place. He always said to really understand something complex like religion, you got to look at it from the outside in.
It's true. When you travel, everything seems new and interesting. The way people live their lives, the everyday things even.
Exactly. And Chesterton, he uses that kind of perspective throughout the book. Like when he talks about those prehistoric cave paintings.
Oh yeah, the story of the priest and the boy discovering those paintings deep inside the cave. So vivid.
Right.
But he uses it to make a bigger point, doesn't he? Something about what makes us human in the first place.
Absolutely. He's drawing this line between humans and animals. Animals, they evolve slowly, gradually, he argues. Yeah. But those cave paintings, that burst of creative energy, that's not just evolution, that's imagination. Symbolic thinking. The birth of something uniquely human.
And he's saying that's directly connected to the origins of religion.
Exactly. It's that human capacity for wonder, for looking beyond the material world. It drives art and faith even back then. Like, think about it. No monkey ever buried another monkey with supplies for the afterlife, right?
Never.
It points to this innate sense that there's something more to our existence.
Yeah.
But we're meant for something beyond just surviving.
So we see these early humans expressing themselves through art, ritual. It's like Chesterton saying civilization, or at least the seeds of it, go back much further than we often think. And this is where it really starts to get interesting. From cave paintings, Chesterton takes us into the world of mythology, and not just Greek myths, but myths from all over. He calls them daydreams, but not in a dismissive way.
Yeah,
right?
It's like he sees them as these windows into the human psyche. You know, they might not be literally true, these myths, but they capture something deeply true about the human experience.
Yeah.
All the big questions, right? Love, loss, what happens after we die? That search for something bigger than ourselves.
Like those universal themes we see in stories all the time. The hero going on a quest, the battle between good and evil.
Exactly. Those themes resonate with us because they tap into something fundamental about being human. Chesterton's point is, even though these myths might be different on the surface, they're often grappling with the same basic questions, the same longings.
It's like all of humanity across time and cultures, trying to make sense of its place in the universe.
Right.
Okay, so we've got these ancient expressions of creativity, the search for meaning. But then Chesterton, he introduces this concept of demonic forces, so it takes a bit of a darker turn. But he's not talking about literal demons, right? Like with horns and tails.
Yeah, no, not quite. He uses demons more as a metaphor to represent ways of thinking that he sees as dangerous, reductive, like nihilism, the idea that life has no meaning at all.
Oh, okay.
Or the relentless pursuit of power, no matter the cost.
So it's like the flip side of that search for meaning. Instead of embracing the mystery, we try to explain it away or exploit it.
Exactly. Chesterton sees these demonic forces as twisting, distorting our understanding of what it means to be human. And he says these forces, they can pop up even in philosophies that seem positive on the surface. Like, he talks about how even the ancient pagans, they had some beautiful, wise ideas. But ultimately, their worldview, it was incomplete. It couldn't fully explain the human experience in all its complexity. And that, he says, is where Christianity comes in.
And he's very emphatic that it's not just a natural progression from earlier religions. He calls it a revolution.
Exactly. It's not just more of the same. It's something radically different. Because Christianity, it introduces this idea of a personal God, a God who willingly sacrifices himself for humanity. That was a game changer.
It really was.
This wasn't about appeasing the gods or escaping some endless cycle of reincarnation. It was about love, forgiveness, a relationship with the divine that was unlike anything anyone had ever imagined before.
He uses that fascinating example of the early Christians being accused of giving the apostles Chinese attributes. Like their beliefs were so foreign, so outside the Roman way of thinking, that they could only be explained as something totally alien.
Right. It's like they were speaking a different language.
Yeah.
And that's precisely why it was so powerful, so disruptive. It couldn't just be absorbed into the existing structures. It demanded something entirely new. And that's what allowed it to not just survive, but thrive.
Even surrounded by all those demonic forces he warns about.
Exactly. So we've been talking about ancient history, mythology, early Christianity.
A lot to unpack.
It really is.
So let's bring it back to the here and now. What does all of these ideas from almost 100 years ago, what does it mean for us today?
Yeah, it really makes you think. I mean, we've covered so much ground. Cave paintings, ancient myths, these demonic forces. And it all kind of comes back to that question, doesn't it? What does it mean to be human?
It really does. And those demonic forces Chesterton talks about, the ones that try to reduce everything, to strip away meaning, they seem more powerful than ever these days, don't they? With everything moving so fast, so much information coming at us.
It's true.
But here's the thing, Chesterton, he was writing during a time of huge technological change, too. Right after the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, right, yeah. People back then probably felt like things were changing too fast, too, right? Like the old ways of seeing the world were disappearing. But those big questions Chesterton asks, they're still relevant. They're timeless.
Yeah, they are. So how do we hold on to that? To meaning, to wonder, in a world that's constantly trying to explain everything away.
Well, I think that's exactly what Chesterton is trying to help us with. He's calling us to resist that urge to oversimplify, to reduce everything to purely material concerns. He wants us to rediscover what he calls sacred simplicity.
Sacred simplicity, what does that look like?
It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary, Cultivating a sense of wonder, even when we think we've got it all figured out. Remember those cave paintings? That impulse to create, to find meaning beyond the purely practical, that sacred simplicity right there.
It's like whether you're painting on a cave wall or expressing yourself online, it all comes back to that same human desire, to connect with something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. Chesterton reminds us that the human story isn't over. The story of faith, it's still being written. It's full of twists and turns, high points and low points. And the choices we make, the stories we tell ourselves, those are the brushstrokes that paint the picture.
Wow. Well said. This has been an incredible journey, The Everlasting Man. It's so much more than just a book about religion, isn't it?
It really is. It's a book about what it means to be human. Chesterton, he makes you think. He challenges your assumptions. And he reminds you to never lose that sense of wonder.
Well said. Expert speaker, thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive. It's been a pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine.
And to all of you listening, we want to leave you with Chesterton's own words to ponder. The world will never starve for want of wonders, but only for want of wonder. Go out and find your wonder, everyone.